We are live. All right. Well, 5 minute delay there. That's okay. Happens. How's everybody doing? See some people loaded up in the chat already. That's cool. Good to see you guys. We're going to talk about BPD today. Done a few videos on it. It's kind of been used as slang, in red pill circles and mano whatever sphere circles. You know what I mean? As more or less any chick that's crazy, we tend to call her BPD. But BPD is a real thing. Gotta get the candle going. BPD is a real thing though, with a real diagnosis. There we go. And so, I mean, it's a real deal. And if you're dealing with somebody who has it, it's a nightmare. Can be anyway. All right. So I'm going to go through some of the traits and some of the issues. I'll answer questions you guys have related to the topic, but we can get off the rails a little bit and answer questions not related to the topic if need be. So we're going to dive into this. Kind of always a slow start with these because happy Halloween weekend to you, everybody. Happy Halloween weekend. Hopefully you guys got something cool planned. I know I'm going to be in costume doing cool stuff. What do we got here? Well, BPD for real can be not cute and not sassy at all. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that makes it sound awesome, but really it's not. Okay. And we'll get into that stuff because it can be a huge hindrance on just your own well-being, having to handle that in a relationship, let alone it's a huge hindrance in that person's life. Person who has it is dealing with some major issues. I think I'll start with as I kind of get set up on a couple things. I think I'll start too with just more or less of a caveat. So one thing you understand about borderline personality disorder or any of the cluster B things, and there's a lot we don't know about these things. First of all, that's really important to understand. So for as much as psychologists do know, there's so much that they don't know. So anything we talk about here is not really a death sentence for anybody who's been given that diagnosis, because there's a lot that we don't know. I'm not coming at this from the angle of trying to be a clinician here diagnosing people on YouTube or something. Okay. I'm really coming at this from an angle of you as the person who's dating or dealing with a potential BPD person, kind of like what are the signs and what to do about it and why this is a trap for you to get into. So the purpose of this show really isn't to help somebody who has BPD figure out or treat their borderline personality disorder. That's something that requires treatment, not YouTube. All right. And so that's and there's a question of, can somebody with BPD be treated? That's going to depend on the person and the severity. There has been people who have been able to treat it and get this, we could call it this disorder, for lack of a better term, under control through, but it takes a lot of work, a lot of therapy. Usually dialectical behavioral therapy is one of the most researched methods of being effective. If you have a BPD chick, or if you're dealing with one, or if you've dumped one, all right, or any of that stuff, refer her to a DBT therapist, dialectical behavioral therapist. The chances of her going are very low to zero, low chances, almost zero, because it's like having narcissism. Narcissists think they're great, so why would they go get help? You know what I mean? And so similarly with BPD, I mean, they don't think they're the problem. They think they're the victim of everybody else. And so if that's what they think, why would they go get help? And anybody who is going to get psychological help, well, I mean, anyone who's capable of being helped. That's what I mean to say. Psychologically, they have to do it. You know what I mean? They have to seek that help. You can't do it for them. You know what I mean? And so that's that's it. I mean, you can't do the thing for them. All right? They have to do it, and they need help to do it. They can't do it by themselves, but ultimately they got to take ownership for their condition, their problem, and then they have to go get help for that problem. And BPD women are part of their condition is to not take ownership for their problem, and to be the victim, or to play that victim card. So you're running into a very difficult situation there. But BPD is also could be looked at as a scale. It's not a black and white thing. The DSM has a diagnostic criteria to try to figure out, okay, is this person having this disorder? And if so, what can we do to treat it? And that's the attempt with the DSM, the diagnostic criteria that psychologists use. But I mean, really, it doesn't say a whole lot in terms of the scale. There's only, there's limits to what that DSM can actually do. And so it takes a qualified professional to really try to understand the disorder in the person and figure out treatment. And you know what? Most psychologists are not worth the shit. Be honest with you, I probably just demonetized myself already. But I don't care. It is true. It is what it is. Most, unfortunately, are not worth the crap. I don't care how much education they've had. If you get education in trash theory and your critical thinking skills and your methodology isn't good, and your work ethic isn't good, which I run and see that a lot in the psychology and counseling community. They're just absolutely lazy and intellectually lazy. Well, you're just not gonna, you're not gonna get really good results with that. Now, there's other psychologists and counselors who are excellent, and who do a really good job. So that's another thing, keep in mind is they're not all created equal, just like any profession. So, you got to pick the right ones. And somebody who has borderline personality disorder, it's a very difficult thing to address, even with a proper diagnosis. But back to you want to look at it in terms of like as if it's a scale, almost like autism in a way. Okay, there's people who are mildly autistic, and there's people who are so severely autistic that they can't function. Well, BPD is very similar. Okay, we want to look at it like a scale. There's low level BPD where they could be helped. They have the traits, they have the difficulties, but they're not so far into the spectrum of BPD that they're just a detriment to everybody around them. And then there's, of course, very severe BPD, right? And so the way I look at it is really what they have comorbidity with, or what their the BPD traits are going along with. We're going to go over those traits here today. But I'm looking at, okay, does the person have narcissistic and or psychopathic traits? So I determine that. I look at it like this. If they have psychopathic traits, that's where the person is overtly going to harm you intentionally in order to win. This is that chick that will fake a domestic violence claim, call the police and say you hit her to try to get you picked up to win the argument. The chick that'll call your work. The chick that is cheating, you're cheating on with your wife or some crap, and then she's calling your wife and sitting down at her because all of a sudden her conscience weighs on her so badly, and really she's just trying to overtly harm you because really, you had cheated on her and you were really trying to break it off or something, right? And she's mad now and she's going to win somehow. And so when they get psychopathic, that's when they are trying to win whatever they perceive a win to be, too. It's just their perception of whatever a win is. You're not dealing with a mentally healthy or logical or rational person. So who knows what winning means to them, but they will do something overtly to harm you. They will cross lines to harm you. You know what I mean? That includes damaging property, physical damage, getting police involved, getting, your job or vocation in jeopardy, those sorts of things, all right, to get you in trouble. So that's psychopathic. What I call consider psychopathic is where they don't have much of a conscious of of what they're doing for you. BPD women hurt people all the time, and I would say women in this because most people with the diagnosis are women. Okay, whereas most men are not, get a diagnosis of narcissism or antisocial personality disorder. So generally, I'm saying he when I'm talking about antisocial. Generally, I'm saying she when I'm talking about BPD, just because that's who tends to get the diagnosis. There are genetic differences with how our brains work. And so, falling into this category with women, the way the genetic differences work, they tend to exhibit the BPD traits when they have this disorder, whereas men will tend to exhibit either the narcissist or antisocial traits. So back to it. So that's so nobody gets offended about my gender assumptions or whatever. Gotta be careful, I guess, right? So, and I'll look back into your guys' comments here, periodically, of course. So yeah, so back to it then. Narcissistic traits are where she can't everything what I did sort of like termed or looked at for narcissistic traits and BPD women is that everything they do has some sort of self-interest involving other people. Like they don't do anything just for the express purpose of helping somebody else or for without measuring or keeping score, we'll put it like that. Everything they're doing for someone else is a manipulation or some sort of thing where they're more or less trying to get a benefit from it. They're always keeping score, they're always looking at cost benefit, and they're always trying to make sure they're benefiting at least more than what they're receiving. And so that person wouldn't go help out another person, let's say move, someone's moving from one, location to another. They're moving like their house to another house or apartment to another apartment. They're not going to go help that friend move unless there's some sort of benefit to them, that she can get or garnish from that. And that benefit usually she's looking at benefiting her somehow in the long run or giving her some sort of social leverage that she didn't have before. So BPD women tend to have narcissistic and or psychopathic traits or tendencies when they're far on the scale and usually not able to be helped. If they have the narcissistic traits and psychopathic tendencies, they're probably the chances of them actually being able to show up and be different is almost zero. Okay. And that's just statistically speaking, not a lot of people with this diagnosis are able to overcome it or whatever. So that's already regardless of where they are in this spectrum, that's already, they're already handicapped to begin with. And then you add in, so you throw in those other traits too, there is really nothing there. And so when we think like in the red pill spaces and stuff and the men's dating help spaces, when people just throw BPD around as a slang term, they're usually thinking about the chick who's also has those narcissistic or psychopathic traits. The chick who's going to, try to, throw a brick through your car or something because, she thinks that you might be cheating on her or whatever, and really you're just going to the gym. That's the crazy stuff, right? The crazy behaviors where she's overtly trying to harm you or completely selfish. We see those as narcissistic or psychopathic, right? Now, here's the thing though. You still got to be careful because just because they might not, there's a lot of BPD women who are not that far in the spectrum who could potentially be more damaging to you than the psychopathic or narcissistic versions. And the reason why is because they sneak up on you, right? But they still do the love bombing. They still bomb you with emotions and love and make you feel amazing. And then they still devalue you and degrade and disregard the relationship and eventually discard you. They still go through the abuse cycle with you. The difference is you're thinking she's not BPD the whole time she's doing it. And that's where it's really, so you're unable to, like I talked about in yesterday's video, you're really unable to see things for how they are and manage those expectations. And so this one really gets guys because they really fall for the girls. They fall in love with them, and they think that the girl's a functional girl. And she tends to be more manipulative than the narcissistic or psychopathic versions. I mean, they will create problems where there's no problems and devalue you in such a way where you don't realize you're being devalued, and then discard the relationship, and you'll think it's you that's the problem, or you'll think she's normal, healthy, and what could I have done? And the reality is, no, she was actually borderline personality disorder, and there was nothing you could have done. She would have destroyed it no matter what. It was just, she wasn't this crazy narcissistic person or psychopathic person, so you didn't notice it. And that's a little bit more covert. They don't really have a term like covert BPD. They do have covert narcissism, but you kind of have the covert version of BPD where, yeah, that's the girl who would help a friend move and who probably is a good friend to other people because she's not in an emotional exchange where her values wrapped up into it. And I'll get into that. And with a lot of her friends, so she could be a decent friend. You know what I mean? She might have unstable behaviors and stuff, but she can be an okay friend when she doesn't have that narcissistic trait. She's not psychopath. She's not somebody who would cross the line to try to get you fired from your job or get you police action or steal your money, or, you know what I mean? She wouldn't overtly try to harm you just to win an argument and do some of the psychopathic things. And so you think she's not BPD because she's not that extreme, but the reality is she does exhibit the 9 traits we'll go over when you actually analyze it. And then in either way, whether she would fit the diagnostic criteria or not isn't important. We're not here to diagnose people. We're just here to determine, are they healthy enough to be in a relationship with? Should I have my emotions and my time and energy wrapped up into this? Right? That's what we're trying to determine. If she has a bunch of these traits, then probably the answer is no. Okay, whether or not she fits the diagnostic criteria or not isn't important. Whether she would pass or fail the BPD test in front of a qualified psychologist doesn't matter. If she has traits that makes her unhealthy to be with long term, then you can't invest your emotional energy into it. And if you are, you're in for a world of problems. All right. Quick plug, Alpha Mindset course. It's closing tomorrow afternoon. So if you haven't signed up for that, you need to get on that, because these issues too, having the emotional self-control to get, to be able to get through and get over these types of relationships and not be addicted to these types of relationships or addicted to these people, that stuff's in the course. Again, it's not a get the girls course. It's a get your mind right course. Whoops. Put that in the chat. So there, putting in the chat there. So yeah, link is in the chat. Link is in the description for you to get on the email list. You'll get an email with an exclusive offer for the Alpha Mindset course. All right. We again, closing enrollment for the introductory offer for the email list is closing as of Saturday. When I reopen it to affiliates and everybody else, it's going to be twice as expensive. So you need to get on it. It's a steal. You need to get on it between now and tomorrow afternoon before it closes. All right. And so I see questions. It's good. We'll get to those. But yeah, so the thing is, like, if it doesn't matter whether you're not trying to diagnose her per se, but you're determining if she's capable. And guys get rolled up and wrapped up in these things, and you need to have a lot of mental resiliency. Now, I'm going to do a caveat here because you guys might be watching. I've had now a couple people in my DMs as well as email tell me about their BPD relationships and then how they chose to stay, and how they want to share with me how they stayed in this relationship. And one guy wanted to do a show on it. I haven't responded to those because I've been busy, but I'll address some of that stuff right now. Guys will go to great lengths to justify their addictions. And when you are with a BPD chick, you're probably addicted to the toxicity of that relationship. You'll use kids as an excuse. You'll use everything as an excuse to stay in that relationship, even though it's bad for you. And so, no, I'm not interested in doing a show where you tell us how to live with your addiction. Okay, that's to put it simply, because that's what it is. I'm going to stay in this BPD relationship. That's you living with an addiction to toxic relationships. I'm not here to promote that. Okay, if you're in a toxic relationship, I want you to get out of the relationship or repair the relationship. Now, for those of you guys that contacted me, if your BPD chick got help, is getting psychological help, is working through it, and your relationship's a lot better, and you're a success story, well, that's different. I'm not really interested though in how can a guy survive in the prison that he has created for himself in this commitment that he's in. I'm not really interested in that because it's not. I don't want to give guys who are addicted to their BPD partners in BPD relationships more excuses to stay in those relationships when really they need to be out of them. And that's really the moral of the story. If I get too far in the weeds before I have to go, okay, if anything else, that's the moral of it, is that you can't be in a relationship with somebody who's not capable of being in one. I don't care how sad or tragic her situation is, because she will make you feel bad and make you feel like she isn't she's a tragic victim, you know what I mean, of you and the world and her daddy and everybody else. Doesn't matter. If she's not capable, she's not capable. If she's not, and when I say capable, I mean willing to go start to do the actual work to become better. Recognizing there's a problem, recognizing there's a better way, even if she doesn't know how yet, and then starting to work to make that better. If that's something you want to suffer through, well, at least you're moving towards a goal. But suffering through a prison situation where there is no goal and the only thing you have is hope that something will be different someday is not a plan. Okay. And there's no way I've had guys want to get on my channel to talk about suffering through their BPD relationships that are going nowhere and that are stuck and that are toxic. There's no way in hell I'm going to have you on here to let you justify your addiction to a toxic relationship. There's no way. Now, having guys to talk, talking about things like getting through it where she gets help, I mean, that's something we could be talked about. But even then, though, you're talking about like single digit percentages where that actually works. Every guy thinks that they're the exception. When every guy thinks that when the warning signs are there that the chick isn't capable or doesn't see you as the best, every guy wants to think that they're an exception to the rules and that they can make it different. And you know what? Yeah, she cheated on me and she has this history, but guess what? I can make it work out. I'm different. Everybody's different. You're not different, man, probably. You know what I'm saying? And so, you want to be different, be alpha. That's different. You want to be different, break your unhealthy patterns, your unhealthy addictions to toxic behaviors and toxic relationships. You want to be different, be a part of a bunch of dudes that are attractive to women because you're on your mental point of origin and you're killing it in life. That's different. That's different. That's different. You want to be different? That's different. Okay. But you're not going to be different by trying to work it out with some crazy woman. All right. That's a waste of time and energy. So anyway, let's get into some questions and I'll get into traits. Good. I'm glad. A lot of people are, dude, I'm so blessed with, like, I hate to say it like that. I don't know why I hate to say it like that, but I don't know what else to say about it, man. Like, there's so much gratitude for this course, and I'm really happy about that because I put like a ton of work into it, and I really want it to help you guys out. And so super excited with all the feedback I'm getting. A lot of guys are really enjoying it and implementing the exercises that are in there, 52 modules, 18 plus hours. And they're already just, the way to do it is to pick the module that you like, that resonates with you, and attack it like, with vengeance and a fury, attack that module and do that assignment. And then boom, like you just start seeing results immediately. So it's pretty cool. A lot of people are seeing that stuff. I'm happy to hear it. All right. So, two most clear. Yeah. Oh, yeah, lies to cover up their past promiscuity. Oh, yeah, absolutely. BPD women run through D's like nobody's business, generally speaking, and they generally lie about it for sure. Uh-huh. Yep, that is what they do. Um, okay, going back into questions. Supplements, dude. I cover. So I have a supplement section in the course. I know. Just every question you guys ask, I'll just tell you to buy the course. But really, all I do is I don't do a whole lot in terms of supplements. I do like ZMA, in the evenings. Lately I've been doing stuff to boost my immunity system. So I've been taking like, just like Colloidal C. And I've been doing Focus Factor. I've been trying that out for brain health. I'll do stuff for brain health. Theanine, I think you say it that way, is good for brain health. It's in matcha, or I'll just drink matcha. But I don't do a whole lot for supplementation, especially right now. Like my workout program is changing. I'm not trying to get huge right now. I'm really more or less going to cut up a little bit and get better cardiovascular shape and more like fighting shape. Get back into some boxing, jiu-jitsu, all that. So yeah, man, I don't do a ton of stuff for supplements, but I do cover supplements in for your brain anyway in the course. One thing I will say is lion's mane and reishi are great. So those are mushrooms. Those are great supplements for mood and overall brain health. So I do recommend looking into those. Yep. Yeah, these are hard people to deal with in general, for sure. A female roommate was BPD, miserable living with her. Absolutely. Okay, so here's a quick caveat. I needed to say this in the beginning. If you didn't get an email, check all your spam and all that stuff, which looks like Anthony did here. Some people with different, I'm using a service and I might not use that service anymore. I might change it for next time. So, because there are a few people who aren't getting it for whatever reason. If that's you, hit me up on social media, or better than that though, is hit me up in my email. Okay, so at APX Mindsets set at Gmail, as I type it like a kindergartner. Okay, apxmindset at gmail.com. Send me an email directly and I'll get you the link directly to sign up for the course. You're clearly trying to get on the list and it's not working. I'm not going to, not allow you to have the offer or something. So thanks for asking that, man, because I almost forgot. So if that's your situation. If you tried it, try it like 3 times. Okay. If you've tried to sign up 3 times and you're getting not a single thing, then there's some weird glitch where it's blocking your address from my end, or your email service is blocking my emails. So I'll send it to you direct from Gmail. It'll be fine. You'll get it, and then you'll be able to do that. So, all right, cool. So, what are your thoughts on? So, I don't know who that is or what that is. So that's cool. I'll look into it maybe. I've done a lot of research on these topics outside of other people's internet sites. So I'm not really sure, but if he's helped you, that's cool. So I just put it up there, shrink for men. Cool. If that's been helpful, good for good. Let's see. All right. Looking for, we got some horror stories. See that? Christian Warrior's got a couple horror stories in there. There we go. The steps. You're correct, sir. So Simon, you have looked into this for sure. Idealization, devaluation, discard, Hoover, where they suck you back in, and then they go to repeat it. They only repeat it when they, they don't have another supply somewhere else. So we'll get into that in a second. Do BPD girls have trouble maintaining female friendships? Oftentimes they do, yeah. Oftentimes they do. It does depend again on the scale, they'll go through they'll go through cycles and periods with their female friends, the same as they do in their romantic relationships, where they'll be really cool with their friends. This is like their best friend. Things are cool. And then, some problem that isn't a real problem that they create in their heads happen, and then they blow the relationship up and it blows up, and then some time passes, and then they repeat the cycle all over again. And so that's the way a lot of BPD friendships go. Depending on how severe her BPD is, will sort of depend on how drastic those cycles are. Yep. And Simon's got a lot of knowledge on this. You must have had your go around with BPD women. I sure have. Yeah. So, dude, this is it's damaging to another level, man. It's damaging to another level. Like it literally, people can kill themselves over this. Like this can drive people to suicide. Being in a relationship with these people, because they get so devalued and so wrapped up into it that they actually self-select. I've used the S word, by the way. So I said kill self. So I'm sure that'll pick up on the algorithms and this thing will never show up on YouTube again. Or or it'll be, unmonetized. I don't even get any money from YouTube anyway, so I really don't care. But whatever. It's the searchability of it, that I want people to be able to get this information. And unfortunately, you can't talk about real topics when the woke police are out. Yeah, as to the one-on-one thing, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, if you guys want one-on-one session with me, you're thinking about doing it soon, schedule it sooner rather than later, even if you got to schedule a date outward, because next month, sometime between now and next month, when I open the membership programs up, I'm going to be doing one-on-ones with my members and stuff too. So I'm, one-on-ones open to the public, my rate has to end up going up. So the rate that I'm at now is the low. I've kept it low for a while. And it's going to end up going up. So to save yourself on that, get on my calendar. And it's not a push to get you on my calendar, I promise, because I have a really busy schedule as it is. Like, people are booking quite a bit as it is, but I just need to do my due diligence to tell you that my normal rate where it's at now is going to change next month, because it has to, because my time now is being occupied with will be occupied with memberships, with people who are doing stuff in the membership program. And so I can't offer, the same price that they've been offering to everybody else. Unless they're in the membership program, they'll get a different price for a one-on-one with me. But yeah, so just want to give you that heads up, man. So if you're looking at doing that, I'm happy to have you in my calendar. But if you got to schedule it soon, next few weeks, whatever. Because when it has to go up, then it has to, and then that's that. So where are we? Yep, that's exactly what they do. It's a pattern. They play the victim, and then they victimize other people. All right. All right, treatment, as I said, dialectical behavioral therapy. Medication does not help it. Okay, medication won't help it. Yeah, transference therapy is another good one. That's good. But I mean, DBT has the most researched, from what I looked, most researched and best results. So, all right. So a lot of comments here. Okay, cool. But I'm going to jump into now traits. Cool. All right. So getting into some traits here. Well, let me find it. But yeah. Oh, let me get into here real quick though, before we get into that, going through the traits list. Because you're looking at like, I need to tell you what the essence of it is too, right? So the essence of borderline personality disorder, like what you're looking at here, it's a dysfunction in their way that they look at themselves, if that makes any sense. And so it's a disorder or dysfunction with their sense of self, even, right? So BPD and most cluster Bs have no real sense of identity or self, and that's positive in any sort of way. They have no internal frame. You know what I mean? And so they are reliant on a constant supply of validation through other people. Narcissists get it a certain way. Antisocials do too, but it's a little different with antisocials. That's a whole nother topic though. But BPD, it's like they need to get a constant supply of, the word, it would be validation is the best way to describe it, from other people. It's constant. They have a very dark and bleak sense of self that's almost non-existent. And so they need other people to put energy into them. And they do that by playing the victim and being that person that always, is always the tragic tale. You know what I mean? That's how they've learned to sort of rope other people in. They're that tragic person, that tragic tale. That person would be so wonderful or so great if only A, B, and C could happen for them. And then that's forever their perpetual state. Doesn't matter if A, B, and C happens. They'll find a way to blow it up, destroy it, so then they can continue to get the same supply from others for how tragic things are for them and how much they need help and how much energy and time and effort they need from other people and how they're a victim and they've never been truly loved or cared for, or, it's all that stuff. Their sense of self is so bleak and dark that they can't have a healthy relationship. They cannot love you. And this really blows people's minds who are in these relationships and really upsets people who are in these relationships. And they will do all of the mental gymnastics to try to justify things otherwise. But you have to understand, because it hurts them to think that this person, the person who's in a relationship with a BPD chick, it like destroys this guy to think that he has all of the love and stuff for her. And in fact, almost to the point where he'd kill himself for this chick. That's how much he loves her. And his identity is wrapped up into that. And she doesn't love him at all. She can't. She's not capable of it. No matter what she said or did or acted like, or how even her emotions were, she can't love you. She doesn't love you. She's not capable of it. The reason why is because her disorder gets in the way. All right. She can't have a normal, healthy bond to another person. And that includes you. And so she may feel these emotions towards you that may look like love, okay? But that's only because she doesn't have you and she needs validation from you. And once she receives that validation, then there's no other place to go but down. Once she gets what she wants from you, then she has to destroy it. And the reason why is because her sense of self is completely empty. And so what it is she needs to get a constant supply from another person in a romantic relationship, whether it's through immediate sex or and she'll act like she'll have sex with a random person like she needs this dude's D to survive. Like it's her genuine desire that she will exhibit is so incredible to a new person. But really, it's like an addict getting that fix of, whatever their drug of choice is. In this case, it's not you and it's not your D. In fact, you are nothing. You are absolutely nothing to her. To her. You are absolutely nothing to her. And you need to understand that. You need to go and think about that all day long. If you're in a BPD relationship or if you're still hung up on a BPD girl, you need to understand that you are nothing to her. And you're screaming at me right now as I say that. That's not true. I'm the exception. I'm different. No, you're not. You're nothing to her. The reason why is because it's the drug, man. It's the supply. I mean, an alcoholic might really prefer, let's say, a certain type of whiskey, but he's going to get that same feeling from another type of whiskey. You're just her preference at the time. You're just the whiskey of the day or the week or the year or whatever. And now she's going to replace you with another whiskey. It literally doesn't matter. You are absolutely replaceable to her. As a human being, you're not. There is going to be another you, of course. If you're in a real healthy relationship, you'll never be replaceable like that. I mean, she could break up and move on, but there'll never be another you. But to a BPD girl, you're absolutely nothing. And she may not, she'll never say that. She'll probably never say that anyway, unless she's being manipulative, because she'll always want you to have that, to be able to rope back around. She'll always want to be able to hoover you right back in. But yeah, I mean, that's it. That's the essence of it. And here's why, though, so you understand it. She needs supply for a sense of self. She has no sense of self. And if she tries to have one, it's completely dark and bleak. So she needs to have someone putting energy into her, effort into her. And so when she's with a new guy, that she doesn't really quite have that guy yet. So she's love bombing him, love bombing him, love bombing him. And he's responding to that, receiving that love bombing her back now in response. That's all that energy that's supply to her. The love part doesn't matter. It's that supplies her sense of self. But if her sense of self is so bleak and negative, she doesn't think she deserves any of the things that you're giving her. So it'll feel good for a while. Then what will happen is a trigger or a crisis point that makes her, and it could be any event, it could be anything. You could say the wrong thing one day. An ex-girlfriend could call you one day, and that triggers her abandonment. You know, something could just happen one day, and it triggers one of those traits. And then it downward spirals from there. You could be riding this, we'll call it, if it was healthy, it'd be honeymoon phase, but we really, the love bomb phase, you could ride it out for a couple weeks or for even 6 months or 9 months of a love bombing phase from her. The longer you ride that out, the harder it is to get out of it later, because now your neurochemicals are addicted to this person and the love bombing and the sex and all the stuff that you're receiving from her. And she's going to pull that rug out right from underneath you and systematically break this thing down, because she doesn't feel like she deserves anything that you have to offer, because her sense of self is so dark and bleak to begin with. All right. She thinks she's utterly trash. And so she at first is getting you to put energy into her, and that lifts her up. Now that she's lifted up, she doesn't really feel like she could have this thing. And so she's going to destroy it and make it a part of her identity regardless, which is her identity is very dark and not really anything that she can identify herself. And so once she has you, she needs more supply from you in order to bring her up. Well, you can't go any higher now because she has you. So all she can do is break you down and get you to devalue yourself, get you to chase after her, get you to try to solve her problems, get you to try to make things better after she creates a problem where there isn't one, get you to try to, calm her emotions, so on and so forth. All she can do now is break you down and get you to try to recover from that over and over and over again. And that energy you're putting into trying to get things back to some level of where it was before, that those attempts on your part is you putting effort into her, which raises her self-esteem again, you see. And so she couldn't take she'll never go back to the love bombing. The first three couple months with this girl, whether BPD or narcissist or whatever, it'll never be like that. You are chasing the high of that relationship and that love bombing, and you will spend the rest of the time with this person, and even long after it's over and she discards you, chasing that high again. You'll try to chase it with this girl, and then you'll turn around and try to chase it with somebody else. That's what happens. Now, whether she is diagnosable or not, that's what tends to happen, and why you become addicted and that you can't get out of these things. And while you're hitting me up on the channel or in my inbox, well, dude, I've been hung up on my ex now. We broke up 2 years ago. We broke up a year and a half ago. We broke up 6 months ago. Still been hung up on her. I can't get over this. Blah, 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 blah. Right. You're neurochemically addicted to that person. Or dudes will call me and they're in a dysfunctional relationship with a girl who's cheated on them multiple times, has leveraged the kids, have done all this terrible stuff, is in no route to recovery at all, and no route of getting any sort of help. And he's like, what do I do? How do I get my frame back? Bro, you're addicted to someone. This is a problem. Your problem isn't frame. Your problem is addiction right now. And so I'm going to reference again. I mean, the Alpha Mindset course has a bunch of exercises and activities to address this, to start to do some self-care with this. You'll probably need some more help after that, but or along with it, even just one session just to kind of get you set straight. But the exercises in there are designed to help you, because although it's not a Get the Girls book, it's not a Get the Girls course necessarily. We'll focus on seduction in the membership program, but it's really there though to get your alpha mind back. You cannot have an alpha, outcome independent, resolved, chasing excellence, best version of yourself, whatever term you want to call it, mind, if you're hung up on an addiction of a toxic personality or toxic relationship. You can't. Okay. And so that's why I'm doing this one. All right. And that's why I included that in the course. Thanks, Simon. You're the man. I appreciate your contribution here. Simon has a lot of good comments in the chat because he knows what he's talking about on this. I can tell. All right. Okay. Well, I don't know what that is. I'm not so new paradigm. I'm not a atheist. Just to let you know, I'm not really even agnostic. I'm definitely a theist. Definitely believe in higher power and God and stuff. I just defer to science, and I stay secular on my channel. But I do that because I don't want to alienate the other 50% of everyone out there, and I think everyone can be helped. But you can apply everything I'm saying definitely to your theistic perspectives. And so if you want to share that sometime, I'd be open to hearing about what you meant with that comment. All right. What's this one? Yeah. Well, anyways, man, I'm coming up on time, and then I got a consult session. Hopefully he's not going to be too upset if I'm a little late. Let's go over the traits. So here are the 9 symptoms. All right. Fear of abandonment is one of them. Okay, so that's a big one, and usually there's something going on. So generally, with these personality disorders, it's a combination of something genetic. There's genetic quality to it, and then there's an environmental quality. Usually, some kind of dysfunction happens when they're younger. Daddy issues, mommy issues, sexual abuse. Something happens to trigger symptom number 3 in the list of the 9 symptoms, which is unclear or shifting self-image. So again, I'll start actually there, even though it's number 3, I'll start with that one. Because BPD women have an unclear or shifting self-image, that is why they can't love another person, because they may have the emotions of that, but really what it is them just trying to get a clearer self-image through supply and validation from this other person. And that is bottomless and constant. And so once they get to a point where they're happy with you and things are amazing, you have this perfect relationship now because she's been love bombing you, you've been love bombing her. What happens is she strips and starts to break that down, because number 1, her shifting and unclear self-image is bleak, and she doesn't think she should have this thing in the first place. So her anxiety kicks in of it ending, and then she works to make that happen herself. That's number 1. And number 2 is she needs supply from you, and she can't go any higher. So now she has to pull you down and get you to react to that. And that reaction you're doing continues to supply her what we could call an ego, but it's not, it's ego in terms of her image of herself. It's not clear. And so she needs to, fuel that. She views herself as evil. She views herself, she has a hatred, an inner hatred towards herself. And then she has to fight against it. So even if she sits there and says, "Oh, like I'm this cool whatever, I'm this great person," you'll hear her try to define herself all the time. Well, I'm the type of person, I'm this or whatever. And then it'll shift. And she'll be often frequently she'll change jobs, friends. This is why she changes relationships. She'll change her religious values, her morals, her goals, and even her sexual behavior will shift into different things because she just does not have a clear image of herself. And she's using you for supply and validation until she can't anymore. Once she doesn't get enough of that anymore from the devaluation process, and there's nowhere else, the love bombing process couldn't get it there either, or the idealization process, it's called. So she's run out. So she has to get supply somewhere else. And this is where she will find another dude. And that's when you realize very quickly that, you know what, you're not actually anything to her because another person will give her that supply. But back to number one. So that's number 3 is the shifting self-image. But if you understand that, then you understand the essence of BPD because that's really what the essence of it is. From there, you have a fear of abandonment. So they're terrified of being left or abandoned because then they lose their supply. So you'll notice that will come up. Their relationships are obviously unstable. They'll have a history of unstable relationships for the reasons I've already mentioned. Self-destructive, impulsive behaviors. So you'll notice that. Okay, she doesn't have good emotional self-control. So she'll spend recklessly or steal something. Risky sexual behavior is very often a thing for BPD women. Okay, substance abuse, all that stuff. Self-harm is part of it. A lot of times that comes with it. Sometimes it doesn't. Could be actually being, suicidal, or it could be something else, threats, or it could be putting herself in harmful, we'll say, self-destructive scenarios where she knows she's going to be harmed. Could be egging you on to beat her up. That happens. These women will try to create a situation where their partners lose their self-control and lay hands on her. And that's something she'll do. It's like almost like death by cop or something, right? Suicide by cop or whatever. Like it's like she'll do that, and you can't fall into that. Obviously, you have to have the control of yourself. Extreme emotional swings are a big sign where she'll come over, she'll be, "Oh, I love you," and then poop, she's on the other end of it. She's breaking up with you the next day after she spent the evening with you. That's an example of that. The chronic feelings of emptiness. This kind of goes with number 3. So chronic feelings of emptiness kind of goes with their clear, unclear, or shifting self-image. And so that's the biggest sign right there, whether it's something else or whether it's BPD, is whether they just have that shifting sense of self and chronic emptiness that they're trying to constantly solve through some other means. Explosive anger, that's another one too. They have a lot of difficulty with emotional self-control. All right. And then they get paranoid, suspicious, out of touch of reality. Okay. So that's another thing that you'll see. They're often confused with, they'll often get misdiagnosed too. They'll get misdiagnosed as bipolar because they're emotionally erratic. So they'll get a misdiagnosis. And some people who are bipolar will get misdiagnosed as BPD when a lot of the women that have supposedly been helped by, the BPD women that have gotten help probably didn't even have BPD. A lot of them, they actually had bipolar disorder or some other disorder, some other psychological difficulty. And it wasn't so much what would have been missing was that deep sense of, of emptiness, and shifting self-image is really oftentimes what would be missing, which would then, in my opinion, disqualify them for that diagnosis. I mean, they might end up with something else. But according to the DSM, if they have 5 out of these 9 to a level of severity, then that would indicate that they're borderline personality disorder. Now, your goal here is not to sit there and diagnose your girlfriend and then to win an argument, say, well, I've counted up all the traits of BPD. Karen, and you're matching 6 out of the 9, which clearly states that you have a mental disorder, and that's why I should win this argument. And therefore, this is all your fault. Okay, do not use this stuff, all right, as any kind of weird leverage against other people or to try to spurg out on your girlfriend or someone you're dating. That's not really what it's for. But it's good to use these 9 traits here to kind of look it up. Maybe later I'll go back in the description of the video and then just put the 9 traits, or maybe in the chat. Actually, that's what I'll do. In the chat of the video, I'll pin up the 9 traits so you see them. It doesn't matter, again, whether she has a diagnosis or not from a psychologist for your purposes. You're just trying to determine, is she a good person to be partnered with or not? And if she has these 9 traits, the answer, or if she has any, any one of these traits to a level of severity where it's disrupting the relationship, she's probably not a good relationship partner. These are 9 red flags, is what you could look at it as. And if she's not getting that under control or has some level of control with that, then you're really looking at something that's a serious problem. It's going to be a serious problem for her having a healthy bond with you for any sort of LTR scenario. And so that means you need to control your emotional investment into someone like that. If she exhibits even like, 3 or 4 of these traits I've just mentioned, you need to exhibit emotional self-control and let things play itself out and make sure that she's not going to put you in a position, because if you only, let's say you see 3 or 4 traits off the bat, well, there could be another, 2 or 3 of these traits hiding that she is just more or less able to hide from you in the beginning of the relationship, especially during the love bombing phase. And so, you need to be able to rein in your emotions in these situations, because you do not want to find yourself. And I am in consults with lots of guys, but who've gone through this. You do not want to find yourself in a situation now where you're addicted to that person and then justifying your bad decisions with this person. That is a painful, horrible place to be. And at that point, you're not really contributing to the world, because you have some excellence you need to chase. You have contributions that are valuable to the other people around you. And all of that effort is being soaked up into this other person, into this relationship. I've done this myself in my past. All right. So I know from experience what that's like. And I'll tell you, it's a night and day difference between when I got rid of these anchors into my life with these types of relationships, and when I got rid of my addiction, we could call it, to toxic women in these types of relationships. My life changed almost like immediately, and I was able to start contributing to the world. You do not realize the amount of energy, and I say energy, I mean effort and time, that you put into a toxic relationship until you're out of it. You really don't realize that. And so you guys who are stuck in that, you're just fueling this addiction that you have. You need to be able to work to get out of it. Okay. And so those are the 9 traits. That's a pretty good explanation of what it is. I'm a little bit over and a little bit late for my next consult, but of course I make it up to them. You'll be fine. But so I have to go. But I appreciate you guys' support. Thanks for hopping on. Hopefully this was useful to you guys. Again, in the description, get on the email list, get the invite, get the Alpha Mindset digital course. It closes for the email list initial offer tomorrow afternoon. Okay. Also tomorrow afternoon, Rule 0. I don't know if we're technically doing Rule 0, or if I'm doing Rule 0, or if I'm just I know I'm doing a show tomorrow. We'll put it like that. All right. It's a little bit up in the air. I'll see what the guys are up to today when we chat a little bit more for the Rule 0 crowd. But, it's a panel that we do. If you're not familiar, we're going to be on my channel, it looks like, regardless. So 11:30, possibly 10:30. Actually, I'm going to start. My plans to start at 10:30 tomorrow. So 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to have a show. It's either going to be Rule 0. I might have, some other people, other guests might come on. They've already expressed that they might do that. maybe just me, who knows? But we're going to chop it up tomorrow for a little bit regardless. Rule zero is either, it looks like it's either my channel or a break, and then I'm just going to run my show instead. Okay, I'll just run a show. So tune in tomorrow. If you're part of the Rule Zero crowd, it looks like tune in tomorrow. And 10:30 in the morning is when I plan to start, a little bit earlier, and run it for an hour and a half, two maybe. And that'll be a lot of fun. But tomorrow afternoon, yeah, Alpha Mindset course closes for the exclusive offer for you guys who are dedicated subscribers, clients on my email list. So yeah, so if you don't get in on it tomorrow afternoon, you're going to miss the introductory price. And then, it'll be offered still. It'll still be offered and available as of Monday, but it's just going to be more expensive, So I hope that you guys can get on this offer. I want to make sure that you guys see it, understand it, or whatever. I know I'm probably going to do this. A lot of people are going to buy this thing when I open it to the public on Monday and open it up to affiliates. I already know that. But I want to give you guys the opportunity to get in on it at a good, decent rate. I know you guys are, want to reward that support you've been giving me. So I appreciate that. And the email list isn't going to be a bunch of spam. I promise. I always will try to put the good things in there. I might have an offer here or there, but it's not going to be about that. It's going to be about content. In fact, I did an excerpt. If you're on my email list already and you got the email last night I sent, it was an excerpt from one of the 3 volumes of my book. And I have 3 volumes of a book that's going to start publishing sometime next year. And it's really savage, dude. Like, it's like me. It's like Paul Unleashed, dude. It's real savage. I can't even share it the way that is here on YouTube. That's exclusive for a book format or a private community. So I included that in the email list yesterday. That was fun for a lot of people. But at any rate, yeah. So it's all good stuff, man. Thanks again, like I said, for the support. Get on that course if you haven't yet, because time is running out. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for Rule Zero, my channel.